Being alone frightens a lot of people, and that's understandable. We live in a world that treats busyness and social connection as virtues. Silence has become something to fill, not something to sit with. But here's what I want to explore today. What if solitude isn't a deficit? What if it is actually one of the most valuable things you can practice? I'm talking about deliberately stepping away from the noise, the notifications, the presence of other people, and spending real time by yourself. And I want to show you what that actually does. Let's explore the power of solitude. Human beings are social creatures, but throughout history, some of the wisest and most influential people have deliberately chosen to step away from society, not out of weakness, out of something else entirely. Take Anthony the Great, one of the Desert Fathers, early Christian monks who retreated to the desert of Egypt in the 3rd and 4th centuries. They weren't running away, they were running towards something, and their influence on spiritual practice is still felt today, centuries later. The Buddhist tradition runs the same current through it. For thousands of years, monks have spent time in solitude, deepening meditation, sharpening awareness, coming to understand something counterintuitive, that well-being doesn't require the presence of other people. The Stoics believed this too. Marcus Aurelius was one of the most powerful men in Rome. He kept a journal, meditations, that he only intended for himself. In it, he regularly retreated inward, found stillness in chaos. He understood that the external world would always be noisy. The real work was learning to be at peace inside that noise. And yet, modern society is deeply suspicious of people who prefer their own company. Think about what happens when someone tells you they spent the weekend completely alone. What's your first instinct? We've been conditioned to see solitude as a red flag. Pop culture hasn't helped. The lone wolf, the brooding outsider, these figures in film and fiction are almost always either damaged or dangerous. The villain is always the one who doesn't show up, who keeps to themselves. But this is a distortion of reality. Preferring your own company doesn't make you broken or a threat. It might just mean you figured something out that most people haven't. The research is clear on this. Spending time in genuine solitude, intentional solitude, not just sitting in a quiet room with your phone, has measurable mental health benefits. It reduces stress, it improves mood, it increases self-awareness, and crucially, it gives your brain something it almost never gets the chance to process. We're constantly consuming information, opinions, other people's emotions, social signals. We rarely give ourselves time to integrate any of it. Solitude creates that space. It's not emptiness, it's digestion, it's integration. It's the difference between constantly eating and never actually nourishing yourself. One of the most underrated benefits of solitude is reflection. When you're constantly around other people, constantly stimulated, and never get to ask the essential questions. Where am I going? What do I actually want? Is my life aligned with who I want to be? Solitude forces those questions to the surface, and yes, sometimes that's uncomfortable. But the discomfort is the point. You can't navigate your life well if you're always reacting, always responding to other people's agendas, their urgency, their noise. You need stillness to find your own direction. Think of it this way. Rushing through life without reflection is like driving at full speed without looking at the map. You might be moving, You might even feel productive, but you don't know where you're going. Solitude gives you the chance to stop, zoom out, and actually decide. Solitude is one of the most powerful tools for real productivity and creative work. When you're alone, you're less likely to be distracted. That seems obvious, but the implications run deep. Deep work, the kind of focused, high-quality output that actually moves things forward, is almost impossible in a state of constant interruption. It just doesn't happen. But here's the thing, solitude only unlocks this if you use it well. Swapping social distraction for digital distraction, or binge watching, or endless scrolling, just doesn't count. You have to actually create the conditions for focus. Nikola Tesla understood this intimately. He was a lifelong bachelor who spent enormous amounts of time alone, and he used that solitude to produce some of the most important scientific work of the 20th century. His ability to visualize complex systems entirely in his mind came from deliberate, solitary practice. Pablo Picasso said it directly. Without great solitude, no serious work is possible. Not helpful solitude, not nice solitude, great solitude. He meant real commitment to withdrawal from distraction. The pattern holds. Almost every serious artist, writer, scientist, and thinker you can name did their best work in the quiet. There's another dimension to this, and I think it's the most important of all. Spending time in solitude teaches you how to be good company for yourself. That sounds simple, but it isn't. Most people have never really learned it. They fill every quiet moment with noise, music, podcasts, social media, television, because silence makes them uneasy. They've never sat with themselves long enough to get comfortable there. Now, the cost of this is enormous, because if you can't be alone with yourself, you become dependent on other people to regulate your mood, fill your time, validate your sense of self. That dependency pulls you toward relationships and situations that aren't good for you. Not because you want them, because you're afraid of what the quiet might reveal. Solitude is the cure, but it's not overnight. Gradually, as you practice it, you become less needy, more grounded, more genuinely yourself. And here's the paradox. The better you become at being alone, the better you become at being with others, because you're not bringing your unmet needs into every interaction. You can actually show up and be present rather than just looking to be filled. There's one final thing I want to mention. It comes from the Buddhist tradition. It's a meditation practice called metta, or loving kindness. The idea is this. When you spend time in genuine stillness, you naturally begin to cultivate broader compassion, not the narrow tribe-based love we default to, love for our friends, our family, people like us, but something wider, a warmth toward people in general, even strangers, even people who may frustrate you. This might sound abstract, but it's deeply practical. The less anxious and depleted you are, the more capacity you have to be kind. Solitude replenishes that capacity. So if you want more clarity, more creativity, more focus, and a deeper relationship with yourself and the people around you, consider protecting time for solitude. Not as a punishment, not as isolation, but as a practice, something you choose deliberately because you've understood what it gives you. The world is always loud. The notifications will always be there. The question is whether you're willing to step away long enough to hear yourself think. Thanks for watching.